Good afternoon. Good evening, friends and family. This is Jane Hoffman live from Duluth, Minnesota, the epicenter of radicalism. Tonight, Donald Trump gave a long speech in which I'm actually going to give him a compliment. He was lucid and he memorized many facts about government budgets and how much was wasteful spending. And he was very articulate, and I don't think he read off a teleprompter. The part that's distracted me in the speech was when he got to the part mentioning people over 120 to 250 years old who were collecting Social Security. And he broke it down every 10 years, like 120 to 129, 130 to 139. And he went all the way up to age 220, I believe. And then he said something like somebody was over 300 years old and they were older than the country. So I want to get some feedback if anybody listened to that public speech, which is going on right now. And should I play some of it, or I would like some feedback. Suzette did not watch it.
I haven't watched it. Yeah, if you want to play some of it.
Okay, just a minute, guys. Hopefully I can do this without ruining my broadcast. Okay, just a minute. Don't hang up, anybody. Okay, hold on. He said it was a national emergency speech, too. It's not on the air anymore, as far as I know. Okay, it's...
Well, that's all right.
So he did make it sound like it was an urgent emergency services thing. And maybe he mentioned something about going to war with Yemen at the end. I don't know. But what do you guys... But the only thing Go ahead, Don.
No, I was going to say I saw it, and it was funny as all get out, because he was delineating all the ages of the numbers of people. And there were 204, but there were 200 years old and stuff.
Yeah, Don, what did you think about the first part of the speech?
It was pretty mundane. I mean, he stressed out the fact that they had to follow the law, but follow more or less the new law, the Trump law, that he's going, because he's the president. And so that's all they can say. That's the only argument that they have, is that he's the president, so he can do what he wants. So that's something that we have to watch out for, because he has been looking to overturn the Constitution by asking that they would like a third term.
Well, don't you think the first part of the speech was pretty on point? Like, I don't feel he wasn't stumbling, he wasn't wandering.
Not at all. He was suggesting that if he had enough support, that he would have a good term. And right now he's fishing, but he also knows that he has to go through the Constitution ultimately, even if he can find some way of getting on the ballot. I think that...
Okay, Suzette's an expert in that area. What would happen is that both the House and the Senate would have to ratify it by over 2/3 of the vote. And then they would have to create a new law, and then they would have to get approval.
Jane, you're cutting in and out a little bit. Maybe it's my phone, but it sounds like can't hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Don,
that's better.
All right, Don, keep going. Suzette, could you explain how Trump could obtain a third term? You and Bianchi are in the Convention of States, and you know how it works.
Well, the Convention of States wouldn't give him a third term, because all the states would have to agree, or at least 34 states would have to agree to amend the Constitution. And so they've been already working for the last 10 plus years trying to get at least 34 states to agree on certain issues, and then they can propose it, as far as making the amendment. But I don't think you're going to get 34 states to agree to changing the Constitution, allowing 3 terms. So I don't know.
That would be would that be nearly impossible?
Yeah, because there's always a process. I mean, there's no way people think, that he could just make himself, be permanent president or a 3rd term or whatever. And there's processes that have to occur first before that could ever happen. So I think it's a distraction for the American people, because he knows that it drives some mainstream media nuts for him to say something like that. And
yeah, it's also confusing.
Other things are going on, so it's like, hey, look at this hand over here. Here's a shiny, ball, and I'm going to run for a 3rd term, and I am going to do it. You watch. I think there's ways around it, and I know I could do it. And mainstream media is going bonkers about that. And it's like, in the meantime, we're going to war with Yemen, or firing missiles over there, or ships are on the coast of Iran. We've got all these other things going on. But people want to follow the shiny object.
Yeah, I think the only thing I find odd about it is he hasn't even completed his 3rd month in office. Like, around April 20th will be his 3rd month completed. So for someone to say that, usually a president is the most popular in their first year, but with all the changes, he's gotten a lot of flack. Like, they had this lady from West Virginia interviewed. She was a federal worker in the finance department. She lived in close proximity to D.C. She voted for Trump, and she lost her job. She is one of the people cut. And now she's against him. And because she made a public interview about him, she's gotten her house egged and stuff. Like, I wouldn't say she's actually a liberal. She's just mad that she lost her job. Because in West Virginia, it's pretty rural, and there's probably not a lot of good jobs there, and a federal job is a good job. So and that's an individual thing. I don't know where the country stands. I just know that Donald Trump's popularity is somewhere between 40 and 47% right now.
I just think, like I said, it may be a distraction for other things, because if being in his 3rd term, his 3rd month, you got me saying term now, being in his 3rd month, Democrats have things that they pull out of their hat regularly to use against their opponent. And so Donald Trump has this. He knows how nuts, people will go when he mentions that. Their heads practically explode. He can't do that. You watch. Now we've got a dictator. Now we've got an oligarch. We're being run. All of our rights are going to be taken away. Their heads just start to explode, thinking all these things. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. How do you figure? Look at the courts that are there now, blocking things left and right. And so, how do you figure he's just going to be able to make himself king one day?
I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah.
That there is nothing but a bunch of bull crap. A Democrat would be running also for the nomination. He would have to win the nomination of his party if they did revise Amendment 12 of the United States Constitution to allow a person to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's another thing. It's not a shoo-in that Trump would be renominated again to his party. It depends on the next 3 years.
Then the next time, then you may have a Democrat that want to run for a 3rd term.
I doubt it.
People losing their jobs. Well, you was working at something that became obsolete. Look at down in Louisiana, where Hyundai is building a $7.8 billion steel facility to supply steel for their automobiles, not only in Louisiana, but also in Alabama and Mississippi.
I was going to compliment you on that, sending that link. That was about the best news I heard in the last week. Was that link?
Not only that, the community college is beginning to offer courses in community college where people can come back and attain the skills that's going to be needed so that they can express those skills working for those corporations. You got a Japanese company that's going to make $20 billion available for entrepreneurs, those who have innovative thoughts. They can get their businesses, finances, and everything else. They meet the criteria. So it's a good thing.
Why would a Japanese country pay Americans money to be creative?
Anybody can get into the business of financing.
Yeah, like in Duluth, Minnesota, we have a plant up here for making small engine planes, and there's a local course taught through actually a public agency where people can get the skills before they apply for the job.
In North Carolina, community colleges are starting to offer the skills of furniture building. Furniture building has came back to the United States thanks to Trump.
That's great.
Nobody's knocking that. I really don't have.
That's not true. You do have people out there that's against that, saying that the furniture will fall apart, saying that the furniture is crack furniture.
Well, why don't they just? Why don't the people making furniture just train the people on the job? Why does the college have to do it?
They need, because the colleges is in the business of training people and students. That's what it's supposed to be. One of the reasons why come Hyundai chose Louisiana, they was complimenting Louisiana on its superb educational systems. Other states need to mimic it too. Not only that, you got states that's adopting the Doge model. You got municipalities that's adopting the Doge model because they understand the value of rooting out corruption, fraud, and theft.
Well, you're a proponent of that. Some of us are skeptical about exactly what they're doing. That's just our natural instinct to be suspicious.
Well, you can be suspicious, but there also has to be some leeway. And then, if they screw up.
Right. I'm waiting for the reason. I think for highbrow intellectuals like me, they need to give a list and they need to show cause and effect. You know what I mean? Like, I want to know the name of a Mary Brown who's 225 years old who's sucking up the government. I want to know who that person is. Get it?
Yeah. I mean, you want to see evidence.
Yeah.
Based decision making. So if there are enough of those Mary Browns, then, which actually it's not even a matter of enough of Mary Browns. It's just a matter of, okay, Mary Brown, you're out. And Tom Flynn, whatever your name is, you're listed here, but you're dead or you don't even exist. So you're out. And so that's, getting rid of that is a good thing. So as far as finding out who that person is, I think it's just better that if they are listed that way, we know that it's unreasonable to believe that a human could actually live to 200 years old. And of course, verify, but honestly, it can't be that hard. Yeah, kind of, so.
Well, it's possible for somebody. When you die, how do the Social Security Administration know you're dead?
Usually if
the Undertaker's supposed to report it.
I haven't.
You've seen cases in New York where undertakers had bodies piled up like cordwood that had not been buried. Another point. If you retire and go live overseas, there's no way for them to know that you are dead or alive. People retire in some African countries, they don't even keep records of birth, let alone death.
Okay, I have an explanation for that. My friend Donna, her husband died July 11th, 2023, I think. His Social Security was cut off before he was even 10 feet in the grave. Like he didn't even get the next month's Social Security. So she reported it, but so did somebody else. And if you have a spouse, they usually have it reported. I don't know if they're a single person, then usually it's a daughter or a son that reports it.
You have parents that use their children's Social Security number because their credit is terrible. They use their child's Social Security number to get credit for whatever. And when the child becomes adult and goes to try to do something that involves their Social Security number, they begin to find out all these negative marks against their record. They didn't have nothing to do with it. They was a child.
That's bad when people cross those boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
The fact is, it's bad, yes, but they do it.
I get it.
Yes, I don't know how. I mean, I've heard people say that parents will use their kid's Social Security number to collect Social Security. It's like, well, that can't happen. I mean, because they have a record of your earnings from being paid and all that. And so and if that kid is a baby, not even a year old, it shouldn't have anything.
Yeah, like some people have disabled children who are autistic and they get money every month, but I never did that with my son, even though he was diagnosed with Asperger's before it went off the diagnostic code. I never asked for any extra money from the government for his condition.
I just don't. If they base it off of income, how do they do that? If there's no income?
if you go now tomorrow and call the Social Security, write them and ask them to give you a report of your earned wages, you may find an input of a job, a location that you never yourself done. What does that mean? That means somebody used your Social Security number. I found that out on my own. I didn't work at this place, but there was a.
Then you have to report it because
I didn't have to report it. I didn't even know it.
No, I mean once you find out, you should report it.
Where am I going to report? It's already in the report of my earnings.
Okay, I'll explain something. Okay.
Wait a minute. It's been paid. It's been paid toward my earning career. Where you gonna take it? If you take, who you gonna give it? Who you gonna give it back to?
What I'm saying is that the IRS, I owe money to them, so I can go in my portal. I can look at all the jobs I've worked in the past, how much money I earned, and how they calculate it. And then if there's any discrepancy, I can report to them, no, I didn't work that job. I resigned in 2020. So you can still report to the IRS that it's wrong. I don't know what kind of side effect it would be, but you should still tell them what's going on.
And they would take that money away from his account, saying, "Well, that's not you. You didn't work that job. Somebody else did. So that money."
How do they know I didn't work? How do they know I didn't work that job?
Well, no, I'm just saying.
Because you're
if you
telling
reported
them.
it, like Jane said.
Even if I did tell them, they don't know if it's true.
Well, they know. Okay, I'll just give you an example. One year I worked at a school in which the pension was like from 2010 to 2012, I worked at LA Unified School District. I didn't get Social Security benefits. The money went into another fund, a retirement fund. So I didn't have to report that income. But then I worked for Superior Schools for 4 years, I mean. And 1 year I didn't report it because I thought maybe I didn't have to. And then they found it later. They discovered the earnings. The business reports the earnings to the government, especially like I work for a school. I didn't work for like John's Oil Change. So every business reports which employees are working and how much money they take out. The IRS has records of that. So not that many mistakes are made.
There are mistakes that's made. I had Navajo Indians working on a project of mine, and they listed 9 dependents. You know why they didn't list the 10? Because it raises a flag. they listed 9 dependents. So hardly nothing, if anything at all, was withheld from their paychecks.
Yep, I know people who do that when they don't want their taxes paid. My ex-boyfriend Paul would change it from like 1 to 9, depending on what money he needed that following week. He would change it like once a month sometimes, which is actually stupid in the long run, because then you're going to owe the government more.
I used to do half, as far as half a year.
You did?
So this way, it wouldn't bite me in the butt.
If I went back to work, my Social Security would stop. Is when I started paying back into it again. Then when I go back on retirement, all those months that they didn't pay me, they would pay it to me in a lump sum and pick up with a brand new amount that I would be receiving monthly. That's the way that stuff works. So
see, that didn't happen to me. That didn't happen to me. I made 52,000 last year, but 66,000 was Social Security, and they didn't stop paying me. They kept paying me.
Well, when Doge make a report that these people are on record, it's possible.
Well, I'm paying them $300 a month right now anyway. I'm on a payment plan, so
I don't pay them nothing.
I'm not gonna be. I'm not somebody who's what do you call it? I'm not in a betrayal sense, and the government, I'm paying what I'm supposed to. People who owe like 10,000 or more and is not paying anything, they're the ones who are going to get their bank accounts usurped.
Well,
I don't have anything taken out of my retirement. I pay it all at the end of the year. I don't believe in people filing income tax at the end of the year, then go around, hooray, hooray, I got a big return. No, they use your money all year long.
Well, you do what you're supposed to do. Like in Minnesota, people get a renter's rebate between $500 and $1,500 a month. So anybody who is paying rent or a mortgage, you get a separate property tax refund. So what else do you guys want to talk about tonight?
Well, you're the one that called the show.
I've been holding up in my room listening to Thomas Merton, the Trappist monk who became famous for writing 7-Story Mountain and other books, and he died by electrocution in Bangkok. Like he didn't die like in a chair. He died in a storm.
Wow. Did you know that a person gets hit with lightning at least 44 times per second?
No, I didn't know that.
And in the world, as far as lightning goes, yep, there are at least 44 people per second around the world.
Maybe I should use that as a method to kick people off the show.
Oh, electrocute you.
Okay, I have an idea. Let's call John because he talks the most. Don, can you come back in the air? I don't know. Don's still on the line. Let me call John. You guys, yep.
No, I'm still here. I'm just listening to what you guys are talking about.
Okay. Do you have something to offer to the show? Because I didn't do a lot of research this week. It was just people complaining about Hegseth and his signal and giving the wrong instructions for the Yemenis war or whatever.
Hegseth didn't do that. Walsh did that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Don.
It was a big mistake from dummies, from people who don't know what they're doing.
Who's dummy? Oh, Don, the rule is this week you can't call anyone dumb because you hurt John's feelings.
Whatever.
Why do you say it's Waltz's fault?
He's the one who added it to the thread.
He added the Atlantic Reporter to the thread.
Signal. I have a Signal account. I really don't use it as much. couple of people I talked to. You can only be invited by somebody else.
That's true. I just went on
Right.
Signal a month ago by my friend Dave.
And if you don't know anybody, you just pretty much your account just stays empty as far as you can't talk to anybody because it's not like you can go search. You have to be invited.
Why did the personnel with the Atlantic do what they done?
Like go on the.
Boy, look what we got. They're down there broke. Any kind of story would do good for them. Hell, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs if they could get one.
I think the liberals are so upset with Donald Trump they're going to use any ammo they can against him.
They're totally, I mean, as far as the responsibility of that reporter is like, whatever the Democrats always claiming national security. Well,
they exposed him.
It didn't matter on that day.
They exposed that whoever effed up, whether they blamed Hegseth or Waltz or whoever, they exposed all their failings publicly and made a big deal about it. They did not hold back. They even called for that guy's resignation, and he's from Minnesota. I hate to say it.
But the United States is not going to war against. Congress would have to. President Trump was running the war for 30 days, and Congress would have to vote on it. So that guy is nuts. These people nowadays are crazy.
Well, at least it was a mistake, and it's over with. And yes, they made a big deal about it. There's no question. Okay, let's call John now. Let's see if he.
I think they could have handled it better, as far as the administration and that department, as far as. So if they would just own it, then that would actually show the transparency that they claim to have.
That was
own up to the fact that Obama had Trump's towers bugged by a private company, and when he said that the government had nothing to do with bugging it, he was right. You hired a private company to do it. You didn't say that.
Suzette said it best because Hegseth got real emotional about it, and he didn't show professionalism.
I don't blame him. He should have been ready to pop somebody in the mouth.
Well, it happened, so yeah, you still have to answer for it.
Absolutely. I mean, and whether it's Trump, whether it's Obama or Joe or whoever, just own it. The people would respect you more if you just owned it. As far as that it happened, not that they knew who or what yet, but yes, it did happen.
Who invited the Atlantic on the call?
It was an accident. They don't know. I don't have to.
That's where the problem lies right there. It don't lie with him.
Right.
Somebody invited that idiot on the call.
I think it was a group chat It was a group chat that already existed, and they just didn't vet the call.
Well, it wasn't so much vetting the call. It's like you get an invite, and anybody can all join in at the same time at different times or whatever. So they weren't aware, I guess, but then they were, and so they were trying to figure out. But nevertheless, if he just owned it and said it happened, didn't have to have any other information on it, just acknowledge that he knew or knows now that it happened. And then from there, we can go as far as, okay, which one of you bozos invited him in? Because this is a problem. But at least acknowledge to the American people, yes, it happened. We're not going to hide it. And we are going to get back to you on what we find out as far as the who.
If anything, it helped Yemen. Like now they're going to have to rearrange their next set of plans for their next set of attacks. So it's
Yemen ain't no problem to the United States. The Bloods and the Crips could take them on.
well, first of all, the Houthis is a band of rebels. They're just a
That's
group.
all they are. A band of rebels. It's not the country. It's a band of rebels.
It's just
the
like
same thing with Hamas. It's a band of rebels.
Yup, it's like the American militia in Montana hiding out with Civil War posted on their bellies, Civil War flags. It's a group of rebels, and they're athletic because they can jump on ships and take them over. So they have to be.
And after releasing the text to everybody, now we know. Yes, it was true that those things were discussed in that signal meeting, because when they were questioned, Bondi and Radcliffe and Hickson, they all said there wasn't anything that we said or text that was matter of security, anything like that, this and yada yada. And so they lied about it. Why would they do that? I mean, obviously it happened. To say it happened, there was a security breach. I just didn't understand why deny it, especially when they talk about trying to gain the American people's trust. And when you say you didn't do something, we know you did. And then it comes out later, you did.
That was what a lot of the flack was from, is that they were concealing it, and then it made them look deceptive.
Exactly, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Now there is one thing that's going on that confuses me. The Europeans are they're thinking about putting alerts and having Americans be under travel advisories, because now Trump's going after the EU for tariffs. And at the heart of those tariffs, like Germany is one of the most precision-making car people in the world. Like they make unique car parts. And Poland is the #1 capital in Europe for computer technology. So I don't see the benefit of Trump imposing tariffs on the European Union, and it's going to backfire. Because
how's it going to backfire?
Because Europe is considering not allowing Americans to visit Europe now. They're pissed off.
Then don't let the Europeans to visit America. They assholes.
No, not all of them are assholes. We have exchange programs from, like, there's Irish exchange programs, English, Finland, Sweden. A lot of these kids come over to America to study, and a lot of Americans go over there to study. It's not.
Well, then we stop. You keep your kids at home. I keep my kids at home.
Well, why do we have to make?
You gonna try to hold me hostage, or you gonna try to slap me upside the head because I'm only asking you that's engaged in fair trade.
Well, Europe is angry at Trump, and they're thinking of ways to punish him because they're tired of him.
Europe already had these things in I'm sorry, Pion, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, that just means that they're a bunch of winos. That's all they are. Whining. Go ahead, Susan.
I was just going to say that Europe has already been planning. It's been in the works already to eliminate passports for the United States or anybody who's going to travel through there, and have them get permission to be able to travel before you travel.
Jeez. I said, geez, why don't they just punish the Trump cabinet and not let people like Vance go over there, who makes an ass out of himself every time he goes?
It has started like last year, and I don't know that this is their way of controlling, people as far as their travel, their free travel, because they can say no for any reason. And again, do away with a passport that allows people to travel, to different destinations. I'll get the story on that and I'll send it to you.
That's cool. My cross-country coach from college is in southern Italy right now, and they're going all over. It doesn't affect them. But
you had some African countries that if you had a felony, they would not give you a visa.
Going to Africa or leaving Africa?
Going to Africa.
I know people in the U.S. who are affected by that. Like, if you have a felony, you can't go on an army base. But I think.
That's the rules. If that's the rules that they put forth, good for them.
Do you guys think NGOs, like, you know, the organizations that handle like Oxfam, like food distribution, and Christian missionaries and people like that should step up to all this government pressure, because the world is not becoming a better place under the Trump administration?
Like, NGOs like that need to be put out of business. As long as that stuff been going on about feeding kids with flies around their face, swollen bellies, and tears in their eyes, good gracious alive. I've seen those pictures when I was a kid. You mean to tell me you haven't developed ways to feed your people all that time?
Well, you know what? They sometimes, like during the Sudanese civil war, they flew in food shipments, but the people who with the guns wouldn't let the people have the food.
Well, then they have a AU, an African Union. Then why come they didn't mount a surge against those that was doing such things?
I don't know, but Sudan is one of the most troubled countries in the world. Like,
well, I don't know what to tell you. That's not my problem. I have a problem. I'm a United States citizen. Other U.S. citizens got their own problem. We can't be the bleeding hearts for all the damn world. Do you guys want to know what's disturbing? Like, I'll be going through reels on Instagram, and there will be like a girl from China who has a rare disease where like all her skin's falling off, and they'll say, please donate. There's tons of them for the Gaza Strip, which I already know about, but what do you do with a child who has a rare disease? And it could be in Romania, it could be anywhere in the world. Why is me, John Q, citizen from the U.S., paying for that? Like, why are they trying to get me to have empathy to pay for them? Like, don't they have a government agency to help them? I agree with you.
Not only that, but, you know, how do we know that they're legit?
Well, they have pictures of the child, like, with bandages all over them. With a rare disease.
They can wrap any kid up if he's going to get a meal, you know, or a loaf of bread. Come here, do this for me. I'm going to wrap you up in bed. Just lay there, lay quiet, and I'll give you a loaf of bread for your family tonight or whatever. Yeah. And, you know, they'll take it. And that picture shot, and there you go.
See, I don't mind. You're right.
Syria.
Go ahead.
Syria and the gas attacks that they had there, they blamed it on Bashar al-Assad and gassing his own people. That didn't make sense at all. And then when they send the camera crews in there, they're picking up the stuff to clothes that were, that does smell like poisonous gas. Why would you do that? It's poisonous gas.
Well, you know, in the United States, they used to bacterize the people and have instrumentation set up at the airports to measure and see how many people are coming through with that on them. I know areas in St. Louis that they've done that.
Right, but I'm just saying it was a facade. It was a gimmick to make the people of the world think that Assad was perfect.
Well, Bashar al-Assad did.
A pile of kids that's supposed to be dead, and you look at it hard enough, they're breathing.
Bashar al-Assad did kill a lot of his own people, though. 1 million. 1 million of them walked to Germany. They walked on foot.
But if they were dead, how could they walk?
Well, I'm not talking about the dead ones. The dead ones are dead.
I thought you were talking about the dead ones because you mentioned 1 million people were killed.
By the way, I don't mind donating like 10 or 15 bucks for a cause, but I'm going to go straight on a website like World Missions and donate. I'm not going to do it through Instagram or Facebook.
No, you don't need to donate to anybody. They will take care of themselves. The donations go into the administrator's pockets.
Not all of them.
There's ways to verify how much actually goes to the cause and how much goes to, and they'll tell you, and then you're like, oh.
They can always circumvent that.
Yeah.
the slush funds and people who are 200 years old all the time.
Well, not all the time, but I'm just saying it happens. I mean, wounded warriors, we would donate to wounded warriors, for example, and then we found out how much was going to administrative and how much was actually going to the veterans to help them.
And how much was?
It was like 30%. The rest was going to administrative, and it's like, you know, these veterans need help, and they were being some were turned away because there was no money, and nobody to take them out for activities like they showed on TV as far as what they were doing with these veterans to help them, get better.
Yeah, exactly. I'm suffering here. I bought tonight at Freddy's hamburger. I bought a chili dog, a hot dog with chili on it. The damn hot dog was the size of a Vienna sausage. Holy cow, $7.
Oh my gosh.
Are you saying it was good or bad?
Yeah, the sausage is very small. Those little weenies that come in a can.
Yeah.
Okay, I bought 2 nights ago. I bought 2 hamburgers with extra onions from Dairy Queen. They forgot to put the onions on, so I went through the drive-thru, and they gave me 2 more hamburgers with onions on it. So I had 4 hamburgers, but I didn't obviously eat them all. I ate it over 2 days. But they didn't even look in
At
the.
least they gave you compensation there.
Yeah, they didn't look in the bag. I said, I want to show you that you didn't put onions on. He said, that's okay. I'll just make 2 more.
Well, that's good. So we need to weed out the establishments that aren't worth the money anymore.
So I have a question for you guys based on what we talked on tonight. Do any of you people now Don is 70, I'm 64. Bianca, did you say you're 75?
Oh man.
Yeah, so does any of Don, and I know how old Suzette is, how have any of Trump's policies so far threatened your lifestyle or prevented you from future funding like Suzette with medical? Has anyone been impacted yet?
No. And I did look into that, and so basically they're taking people off of the medical or the, what is that?
Medi-Cal.
And stuff like that. Yeah. If they cannot prove, as far as legitimacy, that they're not making money. And if they're earning money, a certain amount of money, then they'll take them off. And they'll cut them loose, and same with their SNAP benefits and stuff. And there have been people posting on TikTok, I guess, and then somebody will make a compilation. But anyway, it's people complaining, now I have to go to work. How am I supposed to go to work?
Under the Clinton regime, the 5-year welfare to work program is you could only live 1 year. One of those 5 years, only 1 year could you stay at home with your child. And I did that for 9 months when Lauren was a baby. I had moved back to California. But after that, you have to work. You have to, in order to get any SNAP or any free medical for your child, you have to be making it. Well, I'm just going to guesstimate, but between 20 and 40,000 a year as a single mom. Like that's about the average for a crappy job. So, and
the same way with Medicaid.
Yeah.
Obama pushed that, and what happened, the federal government gave the states money, those that wanted to sign up for Medicaid extension, they gave the states money to help relieve whatever stress they would have. But everybody knew that sooner or later the federal government would stop that. And then the states would be up to them to carry the whole burden. They had all that time to figure out how they were going to do it. And when time comes for the federal government to pull away, now they bitching because they don't have the money themselves.
And was
Scott? And here in California, they included illegal aliens can get medical or Medicaid and the SNAP benefits. And now Governor Newsom is asking the federal government for money for that now because we don't have it. we're running out. And it's like, well, I think they got denied, but yeah, they were asking Congress for money to help them out, to help pay for the illegal aliens' benefits.
And I have two
yeah.
stories about that. When I taught at San Fernando High School and San Fernando Middle School, 99% of the kids were from immigrant parents. And even though the parents had side jobs like selling taquitos on the street, they all got SNAP benefits and medical when they came over, whether they were legal or illegal, they got it. And secondly, when I lived in Wisconsin, the governor at the time, Tommy Thompson, decided only to give part of the welfare benefits to welfare mothers. So I got SNAP and I got childcare paid for, but there was no cash aid. In other words, you get a job right away or you don't have any income. They're like in Minnesota, you get $500 cash for each child. And I moved back to Wisconsin for 3 or 4 months in the year 2000 from Cali. And then I left there because me and my boyfriend didn't get along. But Wisconsin is a bad welfare state. You can't get nothing. You can only get help finding a job.
Wow, but the $500 per kid, that's not good.
That's in Minnesota. You got like $560 for one child. It's not enough to pay rent.
No, but if they get SNAP benefits,
why did the citizens have to pay you for your kids? Where's the father?
Mm-hmm.
Well, in my case, the father was Liberian. He didn't want a child at the time, and I didn't pressure him. Nor did I try to file paternity. And by the time I found him, he was deported.
Well, he should have been deported. He came here to try to use it so he can stay here in the country forever.
No, he came here with his mother as a war refugee from the 1989 Civil War in Liberia.
Well, after the war is over, he's supposed to go back home, I guess, don't they?
No, that's not what happened. He got 2 women pregnant in the same year, and he got deported for sleeping with a 16-year-old, and he claimed he didn't know the age.
Yeah, right.
So he wasn't even trying to be a player. He was one of the quietest people I ever met. So I don't know how he got into that I don't know how he got into serial lovemaking. And then he went to Africa and had 3 more kids. And then he died at age 52. So I guess when you say like God pays vengeance, well, I shouldn't say that on the air, but he got punished.
Well, see, here's the thing. Then here comes the Social Security survival benefits. Whereas the public's got to take care of those kids because the father, who in the hell ever know where they are, you got to be a bleeding heart liver. We got to take care of these poor kids. No, send them to Liberia.
Did you know, like, let's say I had made love to an American, and let's say he was in the picture, and if he died when my son was 10, I would have gotten his Social Security?
Well, yeah. I mean, was he working during that time?
It's a fake scenario.
Right. But if he never had a job, because that's what Social Security is. We put money in that. When we work, it's not even a choice. They just take it, and I think that's stealing. But nevertheless, so it's supposed to be there. And basically, if he was working and then he died, and so I would say you should get his Social Security if you're married.
Right, and like my friend Gina, after she turned 62, her husband died way younger in life, like around 50. She got some kind of, I don't know if it was Social Security or some kind of other reserve program, but she had to wait till she was 60. She had to wait till she was 60 before she started getting his benefits. So she had to
If
wait a
you
long
were
time.
paying
Hmm.
Social Security that they collect from you, supposed to be gaining interest someplace to help pay for his payouts. But you got these kids, all these kids, who's getting these survivor benefits. Well, the money that ever was, if there was any, paid in toward the father, it didn't have an opportunity to gain any interest.
Right,
So
and
that means they got to switch, they got to jump over and take from somebody else.
I'm just letting you know the people who work the system, they know how to work it. Like I had a friend on she had Section 8, she had SNAP, but she worked at a pharmacy. But her sister had 2 kids with like some kind of disability. It wasn't physical, like it was mental. And she got like at least at the very minimum, she got at least $600 from the state each month for each kid. Like there's people who know how to work the system. They get all kinds of benefits.
Look at all those inner city shootings. Hell, in Chicago one year, you had 4,875 shot with about 750 murdered.
That's terrible.
That's going to try to get survivor benefits for those kids.
That's almost worse than like living in, that one valley between Syria and Iraq where like the ISIS was growing. And I mean, there's more killings in Chicago than there were there in one year.
Yeah.
So living in America is hazardous in some parts of the country.
That's because they want it to be that way. They don't want to. Nobody wants to follow the law, and you know what? They don't want to punish nobody. They don't want to. Whoever heard that when you put somebody to death, found guilty and deserving, it has to be a gentle death. It can't be a violent death. You can't put them in the literature like in Florida, old Sparky, where they bounce around a little bit and their head turn around to 360. Oh no, that's just inhumane. You gotta use some goddamn cocktails. Now,
and even now, they don't even use those because they say that those don't always work. So it's inhumane to use those because it will take them longer to die using those injections sometimes.
I thought lethal injection is the most common way, isn't it?
That's just put them on a firing squad.
Hang them.
Well, like in the remember that book that about the Kansas murders that famous writer wrote, Truman Capote? The guy died by hanging in that book.
Yes, and they made a movie about it too later, and it was the hanging.
Yes. Yeah. So people used to die by hanging in state and federal prisons.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think Texas is one of the bigger states as far as that still purport, like sentenced by death. It's still one of the bigger states for that. In California, they never die. They just keep, submitting.
I know. You know what? We saw a documentary the other night talking about all the old people that are in prisons now because they had a life sentence and no execution. And these people, they have to, the prisons have a dementia ward, for dementia and Alzheimer's people. And there's a lot of them that were, sentenced in their younger years, but sentenced to life. And so it's costing more to take care of them in their old age because of different medical difficulties as people will get when they get old and are still there. So they're thinking of passing a law to, once they get a certain age, to cut them loose. And I was thinking, okay, so that's almost cruel and inhumane because if they've been there most of their life, if they got arrested and sentenced to life in their 20s, or even 30s, and they're like 86 now and stuff. And so they've been in prison for most of their life. And now you're going to cut them loose and put them on the street with no job skills, no nothing, basically. Many of them outlived their families already. And I was thinking, okay, so how are they going to get a job, at 86, 90 years old?
That's terrible. They're not.
And right, so it's going to cost them more on the system than it was, and it's still expensive in the prison
they don't
system.
even know how to use a cell phone, Suzanne.
Exactly. And it's like, and if they have Alzheimer's or dementia, I mean, please. So,
So are you saying are you saying they should just stay in prison?
I'm saying, well, if they're going to do something, they need to either keep taking care of them in prison because it would be worse for them on the outside, or execute them, because if they had did a horrific crime that gave them life in prison, well, then it's worth execution. They just had mercy and gave them life versus execution. And I mean, it's becoming a drain on the system, again, because of their costs medically. They have to have special diets. They have to hire special staff to care for them. And in some cases, they will have inmates, that will get trained to do certain things to help with them, get them out of bed, get them dressed. I mean, if people are drooling or just too old and decrepit to do things for themselves, so in some cases they'll have inmates trained to help them get around the prison. So it's just, it's horrific. It really is, and it's not just happening here. It's happening actually all over the world. The few documentaries we saw were in Japan, and what was the other one? Europe.
You ever heard of old Superman comic books when they used to put people like Lex Luthor and them into this plane and throw it off in outer space and just float around? That's what they need to do.
I was gonna tell you guys two things. I ended up I became my son's father's friend later in life, after he started visiting his grandma and his aunts and uncles, and I became part of the family. So we made amends. I even sent him money when I got my inheritance, but not that much. Are you there?
Yeah, where else was you going?
I'm here.
I'm just saying, it didn't end evilly, and he got to talk to Lauren on the phone approximately twice a year. It could have been more, but it just didn't happen. Don, I'm going to run to the restroom. Don, do you have anything to add before we end the show?
Not really. It was a pretty smooth show. Pretty benign. I don't understand what the conundrums are with what everybody's thinking. What's good for the country, especially when you look at things like excess and Watts and Bondi and all these people who are sticking up for a person who is obviously trying to destroy the Constitution and America as we know it into a dictatorship. And it's right there in everybody's face, but no one wants to acknowledge it. So you just have to kind of go with it and see where it turns out. If we turn into another, essentially fascist state, because that's where the Europeans are drawing the line. They've been through fascism in much of Europe, and the Baltics. So you've got some people who have experience just one generation away, who have experience with Nazism and fascism, and that's where we're going. So
they wanted it.
You say that Trump is trying to destroy the Constitution. Please give us some details. No, we just asked for details. I don't understand what you're talking about.
He wants to say, he already said he wants a third term. That's destroying the Constitution, Bianchi.
Yeah, but how is he going to do that?
Man, right now, we don't know.
Give me an example.
He has control of the Army. He has control of the Marines. He has control of the Navy.
Well, what does that got to do with the Constitution? How is he destroying the Constitution?
It's called the coup. It's called the coup.
How is he destroying the Constitution? What would that look like?
if you want a third term, that's destroying the Constitution. Period.
No, you say it's going on now. It hasn't been a third term. You said it's going on now. How's it going on now?
Because he's pushing it out there. And he said, hey, Bianchi, would you be, I mean, seriously.
Seriously. I mean, just because he wants it doesn't mean it's going to happen. There are too many obstacles in his way for it to be allowed to happen.
You know what? Y'all need to stop. People that do that need to quit it. You're putting that mess out to individuals that's listening to it, and the people that's listening to it wouldn't know the Constitution from a Superman comic book.
All right, Suzette already said it was impossible to make. It's going to be impossible in the time frame to make him a third term.
And that's why I tell everybody to chill the fuck out, because there's no chance that he can implement everything he wants within a 2.5 year frame, because there will be a backlash. Some of the people in the country
here's the thing. The next time your side gets in power, we're going to backlash them too.
You're not. I'm a centrist. I don't give a shit what happens with anybody in any of these parties. I mean, we don't have us African Americans don't have much skin in the game. So
thank God for that.
There is no risk for us.
Then why would you say such a thing as far as...
Don, don't ruffle anyone's feather. We've had a calm show.
What?
He said it himself, Suzette.
Of course he did. He says a lot of things, and he knows exactly how to get under the skin of people, certain people.
If you remember 4 years ago, 6 years ago,
I did.
He said that he wanted to change the Constitution. He said it in plain sight. He said it more than once.
He said in August that he was gonna. You won't have to worry about voting anymore.
And what happened with that?
You can laugh.
The Constitution itself gives you a means to make amendments which effectively change it from the direction it's going to another direction. I don't see where he says something, and somebody's always throwing these innuendos out there without giving paint there. It's like the serious day. What is the email address of the day? What is their post office box number? What is their fax number? I want to know who the hell these days are.
He said all of these things himself, Bianchi. What is your problem?
I want to know.
That's your answer.
Obama said he was going to fundamentally change America.
He said
people that understand how things work, they know that shit does not mean nothing. That's the problem.
I know it.
Talking to a whole bunch of
I know it.
All right, you guys don't fight. Don, don't fight.
When he was calling Kim Jong-un Little Rocket Man, mainstream media blew up and said, he's taking us to World War III. That's it. He's taking us to World War III. Oh, my God, we're going to war. And then what happened? He crossed the DMZ.
He said he loved him. Kim Jong-un. He said he loved him.
He only loved him because... He only loved him because he gave him attention.
I heard Booker said he loved John Lewis. I wouldn't have John Lewis in my neighborhood.
You don't have to worry about it. But what John Lewis do?
That's what Booker said.
What did John Lewis do?
Booker quoted John Lewis. I wouldn't have John Lewis in my neighborhood.
You don't have to worry about it. He's dead.
If John Lewis had any damn sense, he would have had a hard hat on that day he walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge. Every Negro you meet on the street, they was there. Ask them. Ask anyone, was you there on the Edmund? Yeah, I was there.
Are you saying John Lewis lied about that?
No, it's just that John Lewis is proud of being beat up once he was there.
Oh.
You people suck so bad.
You know what? Yeah. Can we use our better words? Like John Lewis is a hero in some people's eyes, like mine.
I was just saying, as far
Let's
as
not
why,
fight. Yeah, go ahead.
Booker had said that, as
No,
far as he was
they're hateful, Suzette. Your people, I mean, not your people. These white people are evil, hateful people. And for you and John and Bianchi to be engrossed in that bad, evil, bad behavior is abhorrent. It's appalling.
Who is these white people?
You talk about people hurting.
He's talking about mainstream whites who are uneducated.
I want to know who is these. Here we go again. These and they. Who is these white people?
The dumb ones who voted for Trump.
I'm not. I'm calling out you guys out for not sticking up to your natural heritage when you know this guy.
Ain't no such thing as no natural heritage.
All right, Suzette agrees with. Wait, John. Suzette agrees with Trump's policy. She doesn't like all his behaviors. She probably doesn't approve. Well, let me finish, damn it!
When you talk about changing the Constitution, then
Ain't nobody there.
All right, listen. We just had a Black Hebrew Israelite on the show who says that his lineage is traced not through his color but through his birthright. So it's true that Bianchi does not defend Black people all the time. Could you explain why, Bianchi?
Birthright. So his grandfather left his father that type of birthright.
No, he's talking about how my friend who was on the air Saturday night said that every human being who was born is from the sons of Noah, Ham, Shem, and Japheth. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. And that his lineage is...
Here we go again. Ooh.
I'm just explaining something. But...
I hear you.
All right, but Don is asking you why you as a Black man continually condemn the bad behaved Black people in our society, but you don't exalt some of the other Black people who have made it. That's what he's asking.
I am a United States citizen. That is my citizenship. My nationality is North America.
But
in between politically, I'm a conservative constitutionalist.
But what's your ethnicity?
No wonder you're so.
My ethnicity.
You're an Egyptian.
Is human being.
You're an Egyptian. You're an Egyptian.
You're a hypocrite because you're talking about what's wrong with changing the Constitution. Yes, you can put amendments in, but as it is, you can't start saying how about a third term before you even start an amendment.
The Constitution allows you to change it by way of Article 5.
But you can't. But it's still changing the Constitution.
The Constitution itself allows you people, citizens, to make those changes.
Okay, Don, don't argue with him because him and Suzette already decided that it would be a long process. 34 states would have to approve it, plus the Congress and the House. And earlier, Bianchi agreed it would be an arduous process that probably wasn't going to happen.
That's not the point. The point.
Well, free speech. He can say whatever he wants, but it doesn't make it true. And I think that people who don't agree with Trump with everything or just don't like the man, period. I know he said it. I agree. Listen to me. Yes, he said, I want a third term if we have to change the Constitution.
But no. I'm talking about a pattern. I'm talking about a consistent behavior that is against the Constitution, even though he tells people he's for the Constitution.
Okay, has any of those things transpired that he talked about as far as changing the Constitution? Has it in the first term or this term?
I think Don's upset because a lot of things Trump did. Well, it was called.
Detail of what he's done to change the Constitution.
He's called in the like, for example, he wanted to abolish.
What do you think he's doing, circumventing the Congress when he puts down a budget? And
Give me an example. Give us an example.
He's closing departments that have already had funds dedicated to projects.
He is the executive.
The court.
He is the executive.
The court.
He is the executive.
Okay, slow down,
I
Piank.
want to hear what Jane says.
I'm gonna end the
What
show.
are you saying, Jane?
If you guys keep, okay, Don and Bianchi, put yourself on mute a minute. Don is upset because he sees patterns of behavior in Trump saying, like, he's right. I've listened to pundits from bland news channels who are not politically minded. You cannot close the whole Department of Education. Now, what Trump can do is he can gut about 80% of the jobs and transfer some of those responsibilities to the Small Business Administration. But Don's right. He's making a lot of inflammatory decisions that have come back to haunt him. And the Justice Department or the courts have reinstated some of the things that he got rid of. So, yes, people are in a quagmire. But
Okay.
But go ahead, the rest.
The courts reversed what he had put out. That goes to show the process is working. The system is working.
Another thing too, Suzette, the courts are delving into areas they have no authority.
Well, someone's got to take the responsibility.
They do have some responsibility, but when it comes, there's supposed to be 3 branches, and when the court just totally just takes that authority and wipes out the executive branch just for the sake of doing it, or because they feel it's morally right, they can't. They're overstepping. They're overreaching their authority, their powers. Now, with the president overstepping and overreaching his powers, that's the Supreme Court as far as whatever it is that he put out there. Now, the Supreme Court will kick it back to Congress, and Congress will do something about as far as write a law or write some type of resolution saying he can't do that, that he needs to stay within his powers or limit his powers as far as the process goes. But there's always a process, and we're seeing that work. Some people are seeing that work, and as far as, okay, good, they stopped him from doing that. But then again, if you have a court that's here in California that's making law from the bench, and striking down what he put out there by executive order, that's kind of overreaching there.
Well, what you said, Suzette, courts do not make laws. I mean, I heard what you said, but people that hear you say that. But just to reiterate,
but they can enforce the law. Remember the Muslim ban that was overturned? Like, people not traveling to Muslim countries?
It was not a Muslim ban. It was people coming from countries that was highly infected with a disease.
No, it was potential terrorists.
It was for terrorists. It was in his first.
It was a terrorist. It was against people who were suspected of terrorism, not a damn disease.
And actually, it was 7 countries, because those 7 countries did not have any information for the people that were going to be traveling from there. They had no government. And so as far as there was high-risk terrorist activity in those countries, and Obama had the same 7 countries listed that he passed on to Trump as far as high-risk countries not to allow people to come into America. But it wasn't all Muslims. It was just from those 7 countries. And that's it.
And another thing, those countries had by religion. They had Christianity, they had Islam, they had Buddhism. It wasn't just Muslim. A Muslim is a person that submits to God, by the way. That could be a Christian.
The Muslims, Jews, and Christians are all people of the book. They're all origins of the Talmud and Torah. Now, I'm just saying we all worship the same God, Yahweh. Now,
I'm gonna tell you something else.
Can I finish, please?
You don't have to be a follower of any religion to be denied opportunity to come from that country if they had that problem.
The reason I'm bringing this up is that let me just hear me out, okay? Not all Muslims are terrorists. I lived with Muslims. I have Muslim friends. What I'm trying to say is I was bringing up the example because it was something, for example, remember during 9/11 and then there was a special court created where special decisions had to be made within that court regarding the thing that Bush started where people's data privacy was going to be invaded. The courts make a lot. What I'm trying to say is the courts make a lot of decisions. And the court being involved with the Muslim ban was one of those. It's not like they're making policies, but they can rule or overturn on a policy. That's what I'm just.
People, organizations like the ACLU, are run to the courts trying to get the courts to overthrow this rule against the law.
Yes, they do that because it involves human rights.
We don't have to know human rights declaration. We're a constitutionalist country. We're a constitutionalist republic.
Okay, a female was kicked off of a Eastern College campus, and there's still protests. They're trying to force a court to take the case so she doesn't get deported. It's different than that guy at Columbia who is protesting in favor of Palestine.
Well, let me ask you something, Jane. If it's a private school, the courts can't do jack, right?
I'm just saying there's a lot of human.
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is, if it's a private school, I know some private schools that have all one color prom. You can't do nothing to them.
All I'm saying is that the courts are involved in some key decision-making process. Like Suzette said, they have to be involved. They're not just going to...
They are involved because somebody lodges a complaint. And they have to have standing for the court to hear it. But what I'm saying is, courts do not make laws. All the judge do is give an opinion. The two arguing factions that's involved in the argument, they can either agree or disagree.
Yes. So what you're saying is, and I think I understand, and I heard it earlier today, is that yes, courts make decisions and they make their, what do you call it, dissent on a case. But the case has to involve the court, a plaintiff, and a defendant. In this case, where these courts are overreaching, is they're taking upon themselves to make laws or basically stop him when nobody's complaining. No, there was no complainant or anything else. They just decided, hey, let's get together. We can't let this happen. And so together we're going, as a collaborative, we're going to prevent him, Trump, that is, from doing this or that. And they can't do that. Nobody, no court can do that. It has to be a plaintiff and a defendant, a person that, go ahead.
An injunction only applied to the particular case at hand. The injunction shouldn't cover the whole goddamn United States.
Okay, has anyone paid attention? We know about the guy who defended the Palestinian cause and was thrown in a INS detention center in Louisiana, and his lawyer couldn't find him for 2 weeks. But there was a female who was stopped, I think it was near Boston on a campus, and she got her phone confiscated, and she was considered like a diligent scientist. Had anyone followed that story this week?
No, I have to look into that one.
Well, okay, we'll look it up. Next week, we all have an assignment. Bring at least one court case that you've recently discovered that's current events, Trump, that you think is relevant to this current administration, whether it be something they did in Doge or something that happened to an individual or someone who is fighting to get their job back, something of that nature. So,
if your job is gone, well, the people in Chrysler lost their jobs.
I'm talking about like some people got their jobs back right away, like those handling the nuclear facility plants. But there's some people who went to court and they got their jobs back.
Yeah, maybe it's temporarily. I don't know.
How about the Bonnie Willis case? As far as her case against Trump, her and her person that she assigned special whatever attorney, her beau.
Who's that?
You need to be in jail.
And so she's being called before the Senate of that state, Georgia, and to answer up for
Fannie Willis.
And, so they're in trouble because of all the meetings they had with the White House before. But I'm not going to say much more than that. Allegedly, they're in trouble. I'll put that out there. Also, you have Alvin Braggs and all these other people that were in New York that are having to answer or having their license stripped allegedly. So I'll bring those. Can I bring those stories?
Yes.
Okay.
One of the college. I'm going to handle the college students one because Bernard College and Columbia were two of the big colleges where people got kicked out of based on their demonstrations on campus. But there was.
If they receive federal dollars, it affects them. If they not receive it, see, that's another thing. The only way you can receive federal dollars, you got to have bathrooms and males and facilities, women's facilities that males can use naked if they want to.
Okay, but
that's a bunch of bull crap.
Another point we should bring up is that the only people that are getting removed on campuses are policy inflections that Trump disagrees with. Like if someone was protesting on campus pro-American jobs or pro-American this and that, then they wouldn't even be questioned. It's only people that are working counter to what the Trump administration that are promoting.
Well, the thing is, policy is not law. Policy does not overrule state law.
Well, in the case of the INS taking people out of the country, they've removed some people who were legal citizens that looked Mexican. So that would be a violation of federal law.
I don't know about that. I can't answer all those cases. But if you're in the country illegally, if you're in the country illegally, you're a criminal. And any assets that you accumulate during your criminality has the ability to be seized.
All right. Well, not all of them.
That these people are just living their lives. They became naturalized or through green card or whatever, are here, and they're being deported. Notwithstanding any type of criminality, they're totally clean, they're innocent, they're just living their lives. And so I think that's what your guys are saying. Right?
Yeah, so one was a lady, she was married 28 years to the same man, and he got deported. Now, I don't know why he probably was a resident green card holder, but I don't know why he did not pursue U.S. citizenship. He probably was at risk. But after 28 years, it didn't matter. He out the door he went.
Immigration and Customs Services considered his marriage a sham marriage.
It wasn't a sham. The sham was that he didn't take the extra steps to become a citizen. So
he got married just to become
no, they were both Mexicans and they came together here.
No, well, that's the determination that Immigration and Customs Services. That's the determination they came up with.
I'm not saying it's wrong. It's kind of depressing though. If he lived here 28 years and they had 5 kids.
You had a doctor that was here for 60 years.
Was he deported?
And they denied renewing his passport.
Why?
Because he wasn't a citizen.
Well, maybe they didn't like the kind of medicine he practiced.
Well, you can say that jokingly, but they denied him the ability to renew his passport because he was never naturalized as a citizen.
Okay, well, We've given
a
enough
scenario.
examples, and I'd like to end the show now because it's my only night off. Does anyone have a few more words to say?
Yes, I just have one. As far as people be deported, okay, so you have IRS if you don't pay the government, and it finally catches up with you after like 15 years, 20 years. Those people go to jail no matter how old, and they are strict pretty much everything depending on how much they owe. So they don't have a life after that, and that's America.
IRS have 10 years to collect.
Right. So I'm just saying, as far as those people there are basically like the people that are here. If you are overstaying your green card, your visa, whatever, if you come in illegally, doesn't matter how many years that you have been living here, the law is the law, and you're supposed to enter the proper way. So anyway, love everybody. Good conversation. Respect everybody's opinion, and we'll see you next week.
You guys did a great job. I'm impressed. Thanks for being part of the show. God bless you.
God bless you.
God bless you. God bless Don and the Egyptians.
No, you did right. You got it.
They're right on.
Okay.
The African.
There you go.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.